Today we're going to talk about a question that I get relatively often, and that is, should I become a freight broker or freight agent? And what that really boils down to is, what do you really want to accomplish? Do you want to be an owner, or do you want to work for an owner? A freight broker owns his own freight broker business, and a freight agent works under the banner of a freight broker. We're going to talk about the different responsibilities of brokers and agents in hopes to help you determine which is the best direction for you. We're going to start with the freight broker. The freight broker is responsible for building his own company. And what we know is associated with all companies is a name. So you're going to determine what's the best name for you and your company. Once you've decided, hey, I'm going to be XYZ Logistics, now what you're going to do is to go out and decide, okay, what type of entity am I going to set up? Do I want to be an LLC, a corporation, a sole proprietorship, a partnership, what have you? Once you've determined your entity, now you're going to go ahead and get your company registered with the government and get an EIN. Once you've done that, now you have your EIN, you've gotten your company name, you've registered that company. Now what we're going to do is to get legally set up to do business within the continental U.S. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and fill out an application to get a motor carrier authority. Once we acquire our motor carrier authority, now we have a license to broker freight in the U.S. Now, the license is not active yet. In order for that license to go active, we have to also get what is called a surety bond. All brokers in the United States have to have a $75,000 surety bond to legally broker freight. Once you've gotten your surety bond, now what you're going to do is look at getting contingent cargo insurance. Now, contingent cargo insurance is not required by the FMCSA, but most of your shippers are going to require that you have it. So it just passes the common sense test to go ahead and get contingent cargo insurance. Once you've established your contingent cargo insurance, now what you're going to look to get is your financing. You're going to want to be able to get some financing in place to be able to pay your carriers when the load has been delivered. Because it's our responsibilities as brokers to pay carriers when that load has been delivered. Now, you can do that in several different ways. You can have a loan from a bank to pay your carriers, or you can have a line of credit, or you can have what most of us start out with as new businesses, because qualifying for a loan or line of credit is very difficult to do when you don't have any credit established. So what's out there for us when we don't have that credit established is what's called a factoring company. And that factoring company comes in and stands in the gap for your company and pays carriers when that load has been delivered. And not only do they pay carriers, they pay your commission as the broker as well. So, getting financing is not something that is very, very difficult at all. As a matter of fact, it's relatively simple to get set up with a freight factoring company if you decide to go the factoring route, which most freight brokers do when they first get started. So now that you have the things set up that you need to run your business, then of course you're going to do the things that a broker does. He develops relationships with carriers and shippers to, of course, manage the movement of their freight to earn profit. So now let's switch gears and take a look at the freight agent. The freight agent doesn't have to have any of those things that we mentioned that's required for the freight broker. For example, the freight agent does not have to have a motor carrier authority, surety bond, contingent cargo insurance, or financing in place to pay carriers. He does not have to have any of that because he's working under the banner of an established freight broker. Now, here's the exchange. Because you're working under the authority of that freight broker, you're going to pay that freight broker to do that. You're going to be paying 30 to 55% of your profit on every single load. So that is the exchange. So you don't have the freight broker responsibilities, but at the same time, you're working under that freight broker's authority. So you have to pay that freight broker in order to do that. If you're giving 30 to 55% of your profits to your freight broker, then of course that's going to cut substantially into your profits. The freight agent is going to be building relationships with customers. He's going to be managing the movement of loads. He's going to be earning profits. His focus is to build those relationships and earn profits. That's primarily what the freight agent is going to be focused on. So when you're deciding which is best for you, whether that be the broker or agent, always remember that The time is not something that you're going to be able to get around, whether you decide to be a broker or agent. And when I say the time, I mean the commitment, the dedication of your time in order to learn the business, in order to succeed at it. We cannot get around that. A broker or agent has to commit the time necessary to learn the business. Also, you're going to want to look into this business, regardless of whether you're coming in as an agent or broker, to determine whether you think you would be a good fit for it. I don't think it's a good idea to come in and say, I'm just going to see if it's something that I'll like, without doing your due diligence. Look into it first and see if you can see yourself doing it. Don't just say I'm going to go in as a freight agent, and because I'm working underneath the banner of someone else, I can kind of determine, whether this is something that I want to do or not. To me, that should be determined already. You should be able to look into this opportunity and see it and say, hey, this is something that I can see myself doing, or this is not something that I can see myself doing. But if it's something that you can see yourself doing, then put your best foot forward in doing it. I think that's probably the one thing I see most, is that people don't put the proper due diligence into deciding whether this opportunity is a good fit for them or not. So spend time in researching the business before you decide to take the step of coming into the business as a broker or an agent. So that's what we wanted to share with you today. I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully this will help you to make a decision on whether the broker opportunity is right for you or the agent opportunity is right for you. Just remember, there's a time investment regardless of which one you choose. The broker owns his own business. The agent works under the banner of the freight broker. The broker gets all of the profit. The agent has to pay the broker 30 to 55% of his profit. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker opportunity, I've left a link in the description box below. That link is a webinar replay that's going to give you an in-depth look into the freight broker opportunity and Alliance Logistics training program. That way you'll be able to take a look at it and figure out if this program, if this opportunity aligns with what it is that you're interested in accomplishing, if it fits well with what it is that you want to do. So we wish you the very best in all your endeavors. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.